Hi, so I'm going to talk about spells today. Um, okay, so if you think of spells as an umbrella term, under that umbrella, they're separated into two kinds of spells. Um, One of the kinds I feel is more like another three are broken down into them. But just for this basic one, I'm going to be talking about just the two. Um, and these two, actually, for not people who don't know what an actual spell is, let me break it down. A spell is when you basically, it's like a prayer. You ask your God or you ask the universe for something. So how people pray to their God and say, God, please protect me. People go and do a spell for protection. And basically, you know, they work basically the same, except one, I mean, at least for me in my experience, I've gotten more from spells than I have with prayers. But both work. Okay. So there are two types of spells. There's ritualistic spells, and then I need to create a term for this. I'm sure there's some terms, but I just call them spells. Yeah. So spells. I'm gonna start with ritualistic spells. Ritualistic spells are when you're done usually on you're done do it routinely. So a lot of people do ritualistic spells on holy days. So the solstice or the spring equinox or the autumn equinox or fall equinox, or the winter solstice or the summer solstice, or the new moon or the full moon or a blue moon. We actually have a blue moon coming up, so that's really cool, I feel. And what you do when you do these ritualistic spells, I mean, you can do them really whenever. So a lot of people do ritualistic spells for love, and they just keep doing the spell, or they do ritualistic spells for money, and you do them over and over and over. A lot of spells take time to work. A lot of ritualistic spells take time to work, but they're also sometimes can be more powerful because you're usually doing them on a holy day. And usually when you do a ritualistic spell, it's for one of really, I feel really there should only be three really times you should do ritualistic spells. One should be for good luck / good tidings. So for the winter solstice, I usually do a ritualistic spell for a year, a prosperous year, or a good luck year. Spring, you ask for good health, or you ask for blessing your board. A lot of people do ritualistic spells on the either new moon or full moon of cleansing their workspace, their altar. Or they make grids. Grids are another really thing that can be ritualistic spells, where you just, I'll get into grids more later, as I'm still learning actually myself about grids, but I'm trying to become better with them. So when I feel like I'm comfortable talking about them, I will. And then, so those are ritualistic spells. Usually ritualistic spells take multiple parts. So they are, usually you have a bowl of water and fire and earth and something representing the four elements, along with your guide or your deity or your god. And you put it on your altar, or you have it on your altar, and you do the spell there. Oh, it's such a beautiful moon tonight. Then, after that, you chant and you meditate and you spend time on the spell. It takes a lot of time, usually, with these spells. If you hear water dripping in the background, it's because it's been raining all day, by the way. Sorry. Then, after that, you chant. I like meditating. One of my ritualistic spells is usually done on the winter solstice, and it used to be more on the summer solstice. And I love meditating. I just meditate that day. I go out and I meditate. Actually, first I light a candle, usually in my altar. And I can't tell you what I exactly do, because if I do, yeah, I'll actually talk about that later too. So then there's spells. All right. So spells really is broken down into three kind of spells, but three different types of spells. That's better. But just for the basic knowledge, these spells take less time. Some take up to 7 days. Some take a certain amount of time, but they're different than ritualistic spells, which you mostly just do on your high holidays. These types of spells are more broad, so you can do them for love and all the other stuff, money, and sometimes they take less. So I have a candle, which is green. A lot of them use candlework. A lot of them use crystals. A lot of them use oils. A lot of them use incense or elements. And when you do this, you have to follow the recipe. It's like cooking. It's exactly like cooking. If you don't follow the recipe for the correct spell, then the spell's not going to work. It's like making a souffle. If you don't follow the right souffle instructions, then the souffle is going to come out flat. So with these types of spells, you want to... With these types of spells, they take less time, but they also can take... They can also be a lot different amounts of powerfulness. And some of them work and some of them don't work. You have to be careful with what kind of spell you use if you use a spell. Because when you do use a spell, you have to figure out what's the kind of spell you need for the certain situation. Sometimes just controlling your energy is the right kind of way. So for blessing a house, some people like to smudge it, but, when I was away and I was visiting my family, I did a spell because there was a lot of bad energy in the house. And I just found what was closest by, which was controlling of the earth. And it was actually Queen Anne's lace, which is a pretty powerful plant, I feel myself. And then I put part of the plant in my hand, part of the plant on the house itself, and part of the plant on the ground. And I put one hand on the plant that was on the house and one plant that was in my hand. And then I controlled and I willed the negative energy out of the house through my body, making sure that it did not go too deep, because you have to be a lot more experienced with this type of controlling your own energy and making sure that energy doesn't stick to you, because there's a lot of dangers with that. And then willing it back into the earth. That's why I use the Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace works as a conductor, so I conducted it from one hand to the other hand to the earth. At which point, the energy got a lot better from the house, and a lot better than the entire vacation was good. But this is just an example of a spell. But then you can also use a luck spell. So I did, you can use charms. A lot of charms work. Simple charms too. So a 3-leaf clover is a good luck charm. Or, personally, I don't like rabbit's foots because they're a little too dark for me. But, some people, they work for them. And so there's a lot of spells that you use, and some are for protection, where you chant and you go, "Goddess, protect me," or you chant and a simple spell is for rain. This is actually the first spell I actually really learned myself, and it's basically the children's song of "Rain, rain, go away, come again another day," but I know it as "Little Janice wants to play." And you say it 3 times. And you say it with authority. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you need to say it more than 3 times. And it works. And it sometimes goes away. That's a good spell to start on if you're just new to spells. Alright. So I said there's 3 different types of spells under this umbrella term of spells. Alright, so 2 of them I don't really have a name for. One of them I call wishing spells. And wishing spells you probably already have done. It's basically willing your mind to go and do something. So a lot of people wish and go, I wish for blank, like in your mind. So, you really want a job. So you go, I really want this job. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get this job. And you just know in your gut that you're going to get this job. And it happens. And you get the job. I've done it multiple times and gotten a job this way. Or, I'm going to get an A on this test, and you study, and you do it yourself, and you get an A on this test. Sometimes you do study. You always have to meet a spell halfway. You always have to give something for a spell to work. So if that's your own energy, you give that energy to the universe. It's give and take. You can't just, boom, fire. Like I said before. It just doesn't work that way. You have to give and take. So that, with those types of spells, you have to be careful. You have to be really careful with those types of spells. Because of the threefold law, really. And those types of spells are the easiest to manipulate and turn into curses. So, for instance, I had a friend. I actually, thank God this didn't happen to me. But I had a friend, and she was really, really angry that her boyfriend cheated on her. And she was like, I want him to get cancer. And she came to me and said, I want him to get cancer. And I go, I don't do that. I don't curse people. And I told her if she wanted to, she could. And she goes, no, I don't want to. But she willed it into happening. She focused so much and concentrated so much on him, negatively produced it. And the man, he's okay, but he got a lump. He got a tumor. They found a tumor, and she got terrified and was like, I didn't do it. I didn't know I was doing it. And I said, well, did you concentrate on it? And she said, yes. And I said, that's what happens. So these types of spells are easy to turn into a curse, and you have to be careful with curses, because guess what? Mother Nature, she's a bitch. The universe is a bitch, and she's going to come and bite you back in the butt if you're not careful. So you have to be careful, and you have to be careful on what you concentrate on. You never want to concentrate on the negative, because if you just concentrate on the negative, then the negative is only going to affect you. Alright, so that's one of them. Alright, the second one, I'm going to put it under, I'm trying to make up a term right now. I'm going to say, well, one of them we already talked about, which is kind of the basic spell. And then, so that's one, just the kind of basic spell. And then the other one, I'm going to say psychic ability. That's the third one. So there's wishing, psychic ability, and then just spells. Psychic abilities. Now you can tone into these. These take a lot of work. Personally, I have them, and I don't. Sometimes you don't like them. Sometimes you do. So these are more. A lot of children get these naturally, but you have to learn how to control them if you don't. These are from the gods giving you certain abilities when you're born. And what you do is you tone them in. So for some people, it's being able to walk out of your body. And, a lot of people, if you want to get this ability, they sleep with something underneath their pillow. They sleep with, I know an amethyst or a quartz are really good for binding those, because they're for protection. Actually, coarse and amethyst are really for anything you really want, but you know, they're really good. Then, so these usually are more done without the witch's knowledge or the person's knowledge. So for me, when I was young, I was constantly doing, I read, sounds crazy, I read minds. I used to hear people all the time. I still hear people sometimes, but I've figured out how to control it enough that it doesn't always happen. Where you just hear it like a normal person, and you know, someone says something and it sounds really out of character. So I once heard, I completely freaked out one of my teachers one day, back when I was like 5 and 6. I guess I was a little older. I was like in 5th grade actually, so I was a lot older. And I heard them be like, "Ugh, blah 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 is so annoying." Actually, his name was Kenny, but you know, Kenny's so annoying. Why can't you just do this? You wish, you know, I should just send him to the principal's office. And I was like, "Hey, look, that's not very nice." And she just kind of looked at me and was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You can't say, you know, you hate Kenny. Kenny should go to the principal's office. He's done nothing." And she just kind of looked at me blankly, and the rest of the class kind of looked at me blankly. And then she looked terrified. She looked completely terrified. And I was like, "Did you not say that?" And she was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And she like looks around the class and she's like, "Did I say that?" And they're like, "No." And then she just gave me this terrified look. So, you know, I had to learn this type of spell. I did a lot, where it just kind of happens. You're given certain abilities. But some people aren't given certain abilities, and they want these certain abilities. And what they do with those are they tone their certain abilities, and use crystals, and use potions, and use oils and incense to make these happen. So, you know, some incense are really, really good at projecting the future. Or using tarot cards. Tarot cards is another thing. When you look into the future, or you use a scribe, those are also spells. You're using your energy and you're conducting energy around you. You're pushing the energy to get what you want, the answer that you need, and the universe answers. I'll talk about scribing and tarot and runes later, but for right now, yeah, this video is over 17, almost 18 minutes long, so I'm going to end it here for today. Have a lovely day. Au revoir. Goodbye. Oh, that's such a pretty car. Alright, bye.